good. How's it going? I'm just trying to see how you. Um, good, good. How you doing? Oh, look, it actually is saying stuff. You know. I was trying to see if they, on the last stream, I had. Where do you do it in Video Producer? Um, I wanted to see if the last stream's videos. I believe it'll show up here. Okay, there we go. So let's do this really quick. Pause that. Then let me click this. This real quick. Wanted to see. Now, I'm hoping my power and everything stays on. We got a storm coming through right now. Video URL. Oh, that's cool. Can you upload, I wonder, directly to YouTube via... Oh, you can download them. Oh, that's great. Stop recording. I don't know if you can stop it. It's kind of like weird. It keeps no, there it did. Okay, cool. Good, Mohammed. That's good to hear. Oh, looks like you can download the whole video here. I had been recording it from Streamlabs, but it looks like you can download the video here, or may. Oh my, this would be great. Okay, cool. All right, but what I wanted to see was, did it mute out the video? Because I was streaming. Oh wait, is this gonna? Okay, good. So let's see. Let's turn that up and let's fast forward somewhere into the middle here. Because that's what we're gonna do, right? We'll make a directory called Hello World, and we'll change into that directory, right? So now I'm not sure where I changed, so I'm gonna them all over the place. So go further in here too. Hello. How's it going? I am trying to. Yeah, it looks like they didn't. I was trying to see if they muted the video because I wound up going over and playing like Lofty or something like that. So cool, sweet. And we found out something else cool. Go ahead, check. Where did it? Was it here? Look, you can download the video here. I didn't know you could do that. That's sweet. I had been recording them directly from Streamlabs OBS, and which eats up my hard drive space. So I was like, oh, cool, you can download the video here? Sweet. Because then I can just download and, I mean, that's still eating up my space, correct? But I can download it and then upload it to whatever, and I don't have to worry about remembering to hit record. Although I think there is an option in there to auto record every time you go live. All right, sweet, cool. All right, I found out good stuff. And so what can you do? Share on all the. Nice, nice. I need to start doing that. Copy to clipboard, embed, sweetness, link. You need to start sharing these out on Twitter. Maybe it'll get some more exposure. What's the highlight reel? What's this? Did they put one together for you? Highlight queue. What? Man, they've really gotten pretty robust with this whole new Twitch interface, have they not? Yo, I'm pleased to tell you that I'm working on my third HTML CSS project. Sweet. What is this one? What you doing on what you got going for that one? Let's get this going again. This should be. What's the new one that you're doing? I recreated a Squarespace template. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, those things are really cool, right? Those, I mean, I don't know. Some people give them crap, for, um, I guess developers and stuff. I think we get sometimes our. I try not to be that way, but, um, you know, you get their egos sometimes, and so, let's close this out. I need to probably cancel that. Matt, we'll see. But yeah, like Squarespace and Wix and those places. I think those are great. For people that really just need to get a website going and not really want to have to have something. Because I mean, a lot of the people they don't need anything really custom, and actually they can. Those things have become quite robust, so they can do quite a bit of stuff. But I don't knock anybody for, whatever makes what they're trying to do easier, more affordable. Hey, sometimes it's just one person trying to start their own business. They just can't afford to go out and pay someone to build stuff for them and whatever. And that's the cheap route to go. For us, it's fun. We want to go mess with the inside of all that junk, right? Uh, but that's cool. You recreated like one of their templates that they had, like that's sweet. I used to love to do that too. That's a great way, I think, to really start like honing your skills down, right? Especially from the UI side of things as well. I mean, emulating other people's stuff is I think one of the ways that almost all self-taught developers, and especially from the web side of things, if you're doing front end stuff, um, you know, that's how you learn. I mean, you go and look at somebody's site and you're like, oh my God, that site's badass. I need to know how they did that. And you start going into and now it's gotten harder with some of the frameworks and stuff out there to inspect on all that, but you still can typically get, an idea of structure and all that kind of stuff and dig into their CSS a lot of times. Again, it's getting a little harder here and there because they're minifying and all that kind of stuff and building packaged production applications for the web, and so you're not able to really dig into the front end as much as you'd like to, but you know you can still pull a lot of information out of it. And so yeah, I mean, that's one of the just most phenomenal ways to learn how to build, is just copying other people's stuff, of course with the utmost respect. Don't like go rip somebody's design that's really good and you can tell somebody took time to build something themselves, and then basically do the exact same thing. Like, I mean, you can do that if you're just doing it for like, messing around and you want to play and stuff. But if like you're going to build like your portfolio or something like that, and then you're like, oh, and just completely, absolutely duplicating somebody's custom work, like, yeah, I don't think that's cool. But nothing wrong with basing it off of like similar ideas that they're using and stuff, and then just kind of add your own little flavor into it. I mean, that's okay, but I've seen blatant rip-offs where they literally are just replacing the images and that's it, and everything else is exactly the same, and that's not cool. Especially, again, like, somebody put the time in to like do all that stuff. So anyway, my rant. Today was an awesome day. How was everybody else's? I had a really good day at work. We deployed out this open source software application that's all built with containerization and Docker, and was able to get it deployed out on OpenShift, which is a Red Hat product for being able to run, automation through pipelines and building Docker files and all kinds of. It's a very robust, powerful tool running like Kubernetes and stuff underneath. If you're familiar with, managing containerization, automation, and all that infrastructure as code and all that, it's fun stuff. It gets pretty crazy, but yeah, it was fun. We were having some crazy, because it's open source software, so it doesn't model exactly the environment, and I work in government, so we have a lot more restrictions and stuff, even though we're in an AWS platform. There's still additional lockdown that we have to do, and so it was interesting. And of course, again, this open source software stuff is not really built for specific environments. It's kind of like, hey, here's the basis of everything. This it works here locally. Here's how you can do it. Now, you might have to tweak and do some custom stuff, right? So yeah, it was fun. We had some issues with front end certificates. This is going to get a little deep in the weeds, but like you can have what's called JWT, JSON Web Tokens. That is a way to like show that you've been authenticated into a system. And basically the front end, once it gets that token, uses it to talk to like APIs, REST APIs, where data exists and stuff like that. And so it was going up and trying to make the authentication, but the certs on the server don't match what's on the token. And so you have to like, so it gets really pretty hairy. And we were able to get it going and running. And so we had a huge win and success. So that's always feels good when you are able to get stuff going like that, especially when it's really hard. So it was literally 8 hours on a video conference call, all what they call mobbing when you in software development or in like DevOps and stuff like that, when everybody gets together on an issue or a problem and start working it out and swapping sharing screens and stuff like that, and working through different configuration and everything else. They call that mobbing. So just so you can some terminology stuff to back it up. So or you may hear another one is usually it's not as many people, it's usually 2 people, but they call it paired programming, and that's also a great way to learn. It's kind of like what we're doing a little bit, but where you basically work side by side with another developer, and you really both attack an issue or problem together, and you pair program on the actual issue. So it's cool shit. So all right, so where were we at? HC in the house. Got the stickers out to you today, sir. They are on their way. Hopefully they make it. The world is a crazy place lately, and mail is one of those things. Every one of them so far, fingers crossed, that I've sent has absolutely, man, of course, happy to do so. But so it'll be. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to seeing, one, that they get there. 2, how long it takes, because East Coast U.S. to New Zealand, it's a hop. Just a small hop. So, man, I would love to go to New Zealand. That would be. We've talked about it, like me and my wife and stuff. Like, what's some of the places we'd love to go? That's up there on the list of top 3. So, if I ever make it there, brother, I will. I'll let you know, and we'll meet up at a place and share a drink. Or a meal or whatever is. I'd want to do something like for real, like none of that tourist shit. I want to come hang out like the local spots. Let's see here. What was I doing? All right, cool. And I call you HC on here, but oh well, hold on. Do you mind me saying your name? I want to see if I say it right. Because I call you HC on here. Mohammed, I never told him my name, I don't think, but well, maybe I did. I probably dropped it when I was saying, but either that or he's secretly found out. Is it Hezekiah? I know Hezi. Did you say, is it Hezi? Would that be correct? Or am I saying that correctly? I just don't want to. I don't want to slaughter your name, or don't want to say it completely wrong. In short, but Hezi, am I pronouncing it correctly? Is it Hezi? Is it Hezekiah? But then is it Hezi for short? That's a cool name. Sweet. Nice. It's hard, you know. Everybody has so many different pronunciations. For some people, you know that it's not the way it's supposed to be pronounced, and they're like, "No, but it's this way," and you're like, "Come on, come on." You're just trying to be unique. That's cool. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm actually a Gerald is my real first name. Like Jerry is a nickname, and Gerald for whatever weird reason. I don't. Some that's always a weird one too, right? Why do people have these weird nicknames, right? Like for their names. Where do they come up with that? Some of the strangest ones, right? Richard and Dick is the like short. Why? Where is the correlation between those two things? Oh man, I don't know. Okay. Now I gotta get back to where the heck I was at. All right, cool. We'll figure it out. Well, the one thing is that we went back and we decided to actually go through the real basics of JavaScript, correct? And I almost feel like we got to the end of that, didn't we? I just got to get that as taught in our JavaScript guide. I'm gonna click on that and see where we're at. Oh, this is fancy. I'm waiting for them to show. So let's see here. Oh, okay, that's good stuff. Let's see. I want to see if they start getting into, because I think we pretty much got through, like, you know, what the variables are, right? We got through, you know, what like an array is, what a function is, and just the basic functions. Like they didn't get into the deeper function types and the different ways that you can write them. But that's the piece that I want. I want to find where they flow that. So I'm in this JavaScript guide here. I think we were up in the, yeah, I think we did this, right? So let's just see what this does. So this talks about the defining functions, but let's see how deep they actually go into. That's funny that they're using that. Excuse me. Because there is actually a built-in map function in JavaScript for looping over arrays and objects. That's also a newer convention in JavaScript. I'm not sure what release that came out in. I'm not sure if that's an ES6. Oh, and by the way, there's like a storm flowing through here, so apologies if stream just cuts and we lose power. That's Mother Nature. Can't mess with her. Let's see. Function can, okay, so this is just still regular functions. Here we get into scope. We started talking about scope last time, and basically scope's contained usually inside of your curly braces and stuff like that, right? That's also true in if statements and so on. So let's see here. I just want to see how far, because what I'm looking for is, do they start to get into, that's pretty good stuff right there. Nested functions and closures, yeah. I just want to see how deep they go, because there's like arrow functions that came out in ES6, and I wanted to see if they actually delve that far down into. I don't see it yet. I'm surprised. I should have known it'd be at the end. Okay, cool. Coolio. See, this is the one too that I was talking about. That right, this map right, that's a built-in. That's a built-in. So that would actually be like a reserved function that you would not be able to just, like, you couldn't really name one of your functions that. I think that would cause a problem, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. We'll find out when we get there. But it shouldn't let you. Cool. Okay, cool beans. All right, arrow functions are awesome. This is what they look like. It's just a short-handed way, but the difference is it really changes. And who was in here the other day that there was some, oh, I see that lightning popping outside the window. Hopefully we don't get shot. We're trying to help the people. Just take care of me, I'll take care of you. Yeah, somebody the other day was getting into talking about this, and it's a pretty like kind of, it has to do with, you know, the context in which you're referring to. And so it really does change when you start using arrow functions. What it references is something completely different than inside of a regular function. So they will get into that. They'll talk about it. So this looks like we're going down the next right path here with this JavaScript guide. Now I think we can probably, because this is really getting into like how do you define functions, and then I really get into like function expressions versus function declarations. They'll talk about you know, parameters and execution and how you call them. And then I saw even function scope. Yeah, all this stuff is really stacked. They get into closures, nested functions. That's all stuff that's really good, because that's all things that you can do inside of JavaScript. But what I don't think we need to necessarily do is the introduction, probably, because I think we've probably beat this thing. We've read it over, and I think I've regurgitated this stuff probably way too many times already. Yeah, we know what JavaScript is. It's awesome. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's awesome. But this is you might have heard me say this a few times, right? In the thing, ECMAScript, JavaScript. ECMAScript is the, you know, JavaScript is standardized at ECMA International, the European Association for Standardizing Information and Communication Systems. Say that 3 times fast. ECMA was formerly an acronym for the European Computer Manufacturers Association to deliver and standardize international programming language based on JavaScript. The standard version of JavaScript, called ECMAScript, behaves the same way in all applications that support the standard. So they're the like governing body that basically comes up with all the new specifications every year now. And so they're also part of the whole the W3C, which is the World Wide Web Consortium, and they also are part of defining the new features in HTML and CSS. It's good to know kind of like where this stuff comes from, and how it does relate to, you know, what you're doing, because again, it's good to know its roots, you know. And then this way too, you know where to go to when you want to find out like what the new, like they just released ECMAScript 2020, so you want to go hit up, you know, this place up here, the ECMA International website, and then go check out the new, oh wow, is that actually, I didn't mean to click that, but see what it looks like. So they just released the new, see, here's the latest edition, ECMAScript 2020 language specification. What's new, right? So you can go in here and check it out. They'll break down all the new features that they've added. There's some crazy stuff going on in there now. JavaScript is getting wild, the wild, wild west. So so yeah, cool. So yeah, we kind of talked about all that stuff, getting started with JavaScript. We know what that's all about, right? We know about the console. We know about Hello World. We built one last time. I'm just kind of seeing what they got here. We know the basics. We know the basics. So, okay, cool. Want to see where we... Oh my God. This one even gets even deeper into variable stuff, it looks like. But let's see if there's anything. Ooh. That's fun stuff. If not my array, you can do funky stuff like that with the conditional operators. Basically, what it says. Yep, and yep. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm kind of just lacking along here. I'm not really being very focused. I apologize. We talked about this. Remember function hoisting? How you can call it before it even is defined, and it still works. Because in the case of functions, only function declarations are hoisted, but not function expressions. See, we haven't talked about function expressions yet. That's funny. Where are they at in this? How do they do that? How do they keep doing that? They keep talking about things that they haven't taught you yet. Maybe this is not the best site to go through. I think I also, let me just see here. All right. We need to do something. We need to start somewhere. These are all the different things that exist inside it. It's just, there's so much stuff now. Amazing. Classes inside of JavaScript that never existed before. Cool. Okay. All right. So we're in the guide. But I also just wanted to see what this one was too. I think what we need to do is pick something like functions, because that's such a big piece of how of what you do in JavaScript is function calling. So I was just I was like, that might be something really good to, and then we can start. Are these live demos? Oh yeah, okay, cool. Nice. Nice. We can build some of those. Should probably use like CodePen or something like that to do a lot of these. That'd be fun. Sorry. I know right now I feel like I'm being so boring right this second. Can't think of where I want to go. That's what happens when you get your mind burnt out during the day. Does this actually shift? I'm just curious. That's not reflecting any difference. Interesting. Okay. Let's look at it. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's the question I should ask. What do you feel the most uncomfortable with, I guess, or what is there an area in which you would like to learn more about? And maybe that's a good question. And I really do apologize. I'm not a professional teacher, so I have not done a good job of like coming up with a like curriculum path for what we should do. So that's definitely my fault. But trying to think if there's because I mean, we talked about, I mean, obviously the easiest things are variables. We talked about that. We can get into if else. That's a pretty good, obviously, topic to discuss. We talked a little bit about this already, right? So basic if else syntax looks like the following, right? This is what they call pseudocode, where you basically just write out in kind of plain English what, or I guess whatever your native language of choices, and put, you just kind of put what it is in there. So if the condition code run to run if the condition is true, run other if it's not. So it is breaking down. I mean, we can actually know most of this. I'm sure you do too, right? What the if is with the parentheses, and that's basically just breaking down the structure of it. This is what I talked about as well, that you can do. This is completely legal code, as they're calling it, where you don't have to put the else here and run another bracket and put the code that you want to run in it like they're showing you here. If you don't have any other condition to meet, you can actually just drop this off and just provide whatever code you want to actually run by default there if it falls through. So it's just another little, it's just like a little shorthanded way to be able to remove some syntax from your code. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, this is weird now. I explained this the other day too, how you can actually run, you can leave out all of the curly braces in your JavaScript because, I shouldn't say all, I think there are some cases like objects and stuff like that where you can't, but still like on if statements and functions and stuff, you can leave off the curly braces. Most developers do not do that because it makes it very difficult to read and it makes it hard to see where your scope exists. So, but they are just showing you that it is possible that you can write this if statement just like we looked at the top there, and you can, same old thing, if condition, but you leave off the curly, and the first thing that it sees here on this line, it will run, and then when it sees else on the next line, it'll run some other code instead. So it looks, right, that's very confusing, and is this part of the sentence, or is this, or what, you know what I mean, or is this part of the, you know, because if this was a string, who knows, you know what I mean, because it just looks very confusing. I mean, this is pseudocode, that's why it looks so like whatever, but yeah, that's weird. You won't really see, you won't really ever see that, but if you ever do, you'll know that why it still works and it's missing those things. Because you will inevitably maybe do that too. You'll get into somebody's, you know, GitHub code and you'll be like, what the heck is that? How does that work? And then you'll know they're just being fancy. Okay, so here's a real world example, right? So basically we're defining, right, a variable, let, as a Boolean. So we're making it false, right? So it's just basically saying if shopping done is equal to true, right, then we're gonna let child allowance equal 10, else the child's allowance will equal 5. Right, so it's just a pretty basic if statement with a condition running a equality operator here, right, to test to see if these are truly equal, strictly, or whatever, yeah, strict equality, I guess if you want to say, with each other. So these are pretty simple, basic if statement, right? We understand that. Cool. Let's see. Okay. So this code is always result shop variable returning false, meaning disappointment for a portion. I can for the parent to set the shop. That's true. Okay, so here is where they start to introduce the else if. So this is good because we haven't talked about this. So basically saying that the you know, the code above here is result in, well, hold on, let me just read it. This code has shown always results in the shopping done variable returning false, meaning disappointment for our poor child. It'd be up to us to provide a mechanism for the parent to set the shopping done variable to true if the child did the shopping. So else if. The last example provided us with two choices, our outcomes, but what if we want more than two? So that's where you say else if. There's a way to chain on extra choices, outcomes, to your if else using the else if. It's fun wording, right? Each extra choice requires an additional block to put between if and else. Check out the following more involved example, right? So here we go. We have a, in fact, do we want to mess with this? It's a pretty big block of code. So let's do something a little different this time, right? Let's go to CodePen. We'll jump around and we'll use different technologies for different things, right? So let's close that. Let's snag their HTML, right? Let's give it a go here. Pop that in there. This is pretty standard HTML stuff here. We got a label tag, right, with a option, a select form element with some options, right? It's got make a choice, which is the default, and then sunny, rainy, snowing, overcast, and then a empty paragraph tag. All right, so that's cool. So we see that here. It doesn't need any JavaScript or anything to do this. That's just plain old HTML, right? And so then what we're going to do is we're going to introduce some JavaScript here, and let's see and break down what that does for us. I think you can do like this, right? And close, and then just go like that. So basically, right, we are doing a const select, right? So an immutable variable to run our document.query selector to pick the tag, the select tag off the page, right? So that we now have reference to that select element. We're also doing the same thing for the paragraph tag because we're going to go ahead and change a value in there, right? So the first thing we're going to do is on that select, we need to somehow listen for when it does something different, right? So like, how do we know what the value is when that selection is made? Because it's not in this case, because you're working with this specific select element, you know, it has different events that it fires off, right? Or that can be listened for. And so in this case, instead of an on click, what we want to do is say when this changes, when you change this field, then we want to go ahead and fire off a function to do something. Okay, so we are then taking the select element that we had defined up here with our new variable select, right? And then we're using the built-in JavaScript method right here called add event listener that attaches an event listener, right, to that object that we're trying to listen in on, right? And in this case, we're passing it a change event. It could be mouse over, it could be, you know, hover, it could be, click, right? Click is the one we used last time. And then we're giving it what we want it to do, right? Where do we want it to go with this? So we want to call a function to make something happen. So go ahead and expand this a little bit down here. Okay, cool. And so that function, what it's going to do is we're defining a new variable called choice, right? And on that select, one of the HTML or the way that you can get the value from that is by using the variable name that we are using to select that element, and then on all your input elements you have a value that exists. That's how it holds and knows what you've typed into those input fields or into a select element like this, right? Or same thing true for like well, no, actually I think it changes when you do check boxes. That's where it's kind of gets funky, so I'll hold off on saying that. But inputs and text areas and selects the value will be defined here. And what we can do here is we can actually do a console log, right? And put out the choice. Now this is where this is very helpful to do things like this, because it allows you to then see like what, and this is how you start learning more and more about what things are held inside of these in these values and everything else, right? Or how they look and what the browser's seeing. So in the it should show up in this console too, I think. This is like the built-in console for CodePen. Let's see if that's gonna work. Yeah, it is. So do you see down here what it outputs? It outputs the string rainy. That's coming from this select.value right here. And so every time we change that, it's going to give us the value in which, right? Because every time we do a change on that element, it fires off this function, right? And so we're not even getting into what the rest of it's doing here. But the first thing it's doing is giving us the value of that select element. And we're just outputting it here to verify what is it? How does it come across? Am I getting the proper variable? Or am I getting the value that I'm expecting? Because that happens a lot of time. When you start getting into troubleshooting and everything else, these logs really do make a huge benefit to you, or provide a huge benefit to you by being able to inspect in on what you're looking for. Like, hey, I define this excuse me, I define this new variable called choice, and I'm expecting a string value of what it, what's here inside of these in this. Sorry, that you're seeing here in this select element, right? And so all of a sudden you're doing it and you're not getting the result, right? Like this thing's not hitting on any one of these, and you're like, why is that not working? Well, it could be something that just is awkwardly set up here, and this way right here, you'd be able to look if all of a sudden, oh, this is coming across as like this, like number 1 or number 2, like maybe it was picking the array position by accident or something instead because you did something funky up here you didn't realize. This verifies for you what you're looking to see come out, right? So you go, no, okay, I see, I'm getting the proper variables. And then it also helps you to be able to start to define this. So you say, okay, so if the choice is equal to sunny, right? So again, you can see the outputs here, then you do something. So it's just a great way to really validate and kind of make sure that what your program is doing or what you're expecting to come out of it is actually what it is. So console logs are very, very helpful. After that, okay, what they're doing is, right, just like we, of course, because we're talking about if statements, and now they're introducing the else if, right, so that you can do further conditional statements. Because if this one is true, right, or this one's false, and instead of it just falling into some other just open bucket and give you back just a return, you can do other tests, right? You can say, what other things, what else, like I want to identify on each one of these things, which is what they're exactly doing, right? So they're saying they want to be able to do, they want to be able to provide a text content for our paragraph here for every single value that you select, right? So it's going to check each one of these until it meets the one that's true. And then once it's, if it does not meet any of these, actually, it'll have the default else here at the end, right? And they're just setting it to a blank, setting that text content to blank, right? So the first thing it does, it comes in here, it says, oh, if the choice is sunny, then take my paragraph and run the text content method here to change the text content within the paragraph tag that we went ahead and defined right here, right? So if you watch here, if I go sunny, the paragraph text changes to, it is nice and sunny outside, just as it's defined right here, right? But if you didn't have any of those else ifs, nothing else would happen and it'd fall through, right, to the last default one, which is to make it blank, and then you'd be done with it, right? But no, we want to check on everything, because if it's rainy, we want to give a different message. So if it's rainy, and what it does is it actually, every time, even if you hit this one right now, as soon as you hit rainy, it doesn't skip over these. It actually checks each one until it finds the true the one that hits true. Okay, so like even now, like I did it in order. I picked sunny. Like I don't have to pick rainy. If I go to snowing, right, it's still going to properly do it, but it actually checked this first. It says, wait, was that rainy? And it goes, nope. And then it goes, was it snowing? And it says, yep. And then it puts it out, right? If it wasn't snowing, it'd say, nope. And then it go on the next and say, oh, it's overcast. Yep. And then it would put it out. So that's how the if statements and the else ifs work. It basically runs it from top to bottom, just like we've talked the whole time, and does it in that order. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So overcast, of course, we expect what we get. I don't think, oh, so this one here, geez. So if you make choice here, there is no value, right? So boom, it puts it through. It checked all these, said, nope, 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 it's not that. The value does not eat that. It's whatever. So boom, it knocks it out. Actually, let's see. What does it put it out as? So let's see. I do snowing. Oh, did I take the console log out? I did. I'm kind of curious to see. I'm assuming that just comes across as... so let's do that again, right? And then, all right, so... Geez, that thing flickers. Okay, so rainy, right? We see that. So what happens when we do make choice? What comes out? Empty string, right? Boom. Actually, we could have known that because, well, no, they're not doing it yet. Okay, so anyway, so on the empty string, doesn't meet any of those conditions, so it just does the default condition, which is that. Boom, else if statements. What? We did that in like 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. That's a cool function though, right? You just... Now this is where you want to start like kind of thinking about things, right? Like, oh, what could I do with that? When I change stuff, what could, you know, so you can start thinking about how this is how people make changes to, you know, elements and visuals that you see on the page, or you want, you know, oh, I switched from dark mode to light mode, you know, it's a toggle switch, but it's still just, you know, you're making a selection from one value to the next. It's identifying what that is, and then it's going to do some sort of functionality to make that change, right? In that case, it probably is loading a different CSS document to do that, you know? So, or, you know, there's multiple ways to do that, just one. But, you know, in this case, we're just changing text content. But, you know, you're probably going to do an if statement that says, like, if selection light mode, load this CSS file. If selection dark mode, load this CSS file. And at the end just else, and just give it whatever the default CSS that you want it to do. You know what I mean? So you start to try to think about when you see these functionalities going on, like, ooh, what could I do that? What could I use that for? And it's like, you'll start to see it like, oh man, I can do a lot of shit with that. So there's really not a huge amount of... That's why I don't feel like JavaScript is so scary either. There's just, to me, there's like so much you can do with just some conditional statements, some functions, and some variables. I mean, now you can start throwing in some arrays and some objects, and then that gets really cool, right? But like, that's it. That's like 4 or 5 things. Ooh, you hear that thunder? Hide. I'm scared. Nah, thunder actually doesn't scare me. Our dogs do pretty good, actually. Most dogs are pretty like freaked out by thunder, and they actually do pretty good. Most of them, so many dogs I've known before, they like get all curled up and they want to come hug up against you and be under a pillow or a blanket or something. Like, they're so terrified of the thunder. That's why, like, fireworks and stuff on here in the US, 4th of July, you know, people try to tell, you know, hey, try to have some courtesy to the animals, you know, like, don't want to give them a freaking anxiety attack because of some stupid fireworks, you know. Not to mention, you know, people that have PTSD and stuff like that, or, you know, issues with loud noises and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's all good. I'm not saying don't do fireworks. It's fun and stuff, but just, you may not want to do it like right in the neighborhood with everybody hanging out. Like babies trying to sleep, people working different shifts and stuff, like, or if you're gonna do it, like, you know, unfortunately that's the problem, right? Summertime, it stays light so late, you can't even fire off fireworks until like, 9:30, 9, 10 o'clock at night, sometime, whatever. So it's like, kind of sucks. Like if it was like wintertime and like got dark at like 6 or 7, then yeah, no problem. Knock off, do some fireworks for like 4 hours from 6 to 10, and like that's fair enough for everybody. But that's just not the way that the sun and all that rotates, I guess, in the summertime. So anyway, all right, cool. That was a good demo. I mean, I thought that was actually pretty decent, because you can that actually is that does a lot of stuff and kind of introduces a lot of different thought, I think, about how to do things. Okay, so we talked about comparison operators already, so I'm not going to get into that, but I do want to. Ooh, look at that, nesting if-else statements. This is true, and that's a good one. Let's do these two. I like it. Okay, this is good too. I do want to look at this as well, because that is a very common. Okay, sorry, I'm just looking ahead a little bit, making sure. So okay, we did that. Okay, so here they're talking about this. So they wanted to take special mention to talk about testing Booleans, okay? True, false values. And a common pattern you'll come across again and again. Any value that is not false, undefined, null, zero, or nan, which stands for not a number. The fun one, right? There's a way, oh, I forget what that thing is. There's a way to output, there's a joke. I'll have to look that one up. Like, na 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 na. It's like they incorporated a funny Batman joke into JavaScript by outputting some. I'll have to look that one up. It's pretty cool. Nerding out on code jokes. Or any empty string. So, false, undefined, null, zero, nan, or any empty string actually returns true when tested as a conditional statement. Therefore, you can simply use a variable name on its own to test whether it is true or even that it exists. That is, it is not undefined. So for example, right, they are saying they're defining a variable called cheese. It's got an assigned value of cheddar, a string, right? So if you see here, they're not saying if cheese is equal to, with the triple equal sign, to true, right? They're leaving that off because it is, oh god, my head just went blank. It is called inferred that this is true. Okay, so by default, that's if this is true, that's it's so you don't have to do the whole. So it's basically going to say if this is true, which it then do this, else just do that. So you don't have to explicitly say, because of the fact that it. I was just trying to see what they said there. Yeah, so yeah, it's just a convention or whatever you'll see. Like, that's why they say, like, we'll take a special mention, because these are like simple syntax leave-offs that you're gonna see. Like guys talk about, yeah, you can leave off the curly braces, right? But most developers won't do that, because that just, it looks funky and it makes it hard to read and everything else. But something like this, leaving off like an equal to true, and just knowing that every time you see if this, whatever, that's inherently saying, is this true? And if it is, then do this, that, and if it's not, then do that, right? So, again, this is very commonly seen. So it is good to know because if you might have looked at this before without knowing this little special mention, as they say, you might be like, wait a second, how is it testing this condition? Because that doesn't make sense. And that's just part of the the specification of an if statement in JavaScript. So little things like that, those are the things. But those are little things that kind of like you need to know, because those are the good little gotchas that people run into, and they go, "What the fuck is that?" and then all of a sudden you go, "Oh, it just means it's true. Oh, come on." That was it, and you're beating your head against the wall the whole time, wondering what the heck it's doing. Why does that work? Why does that work? Jerry said it's equal to true is how you test the strict operand. What is he talking about? He's a liar. But it's not. It's just because JavaScript wants to help you out a little bit and make it a little friendlier. So it lets you do little. The good thing is that you can do either or, right? That's the benefit too, right? JavaScript's being very diverse and open-minded, right? Do it this way, do it that way. We don't care. We don't care. You could do this completely backwards. You can say, everybody usually tests for true. You don't have to. You could say, if cheese is equal to false, and then say console log no cheese, and then the default that fall through would be, if it is true, then go to the other one. But typically you don't see it that way. They go and test to see if it's true first, and then if it's false, they fall through to the default, right? Or do another condition. But you don't have to do it that way. So flexibility, it's nice. It's nice to have it in a language. It doesn't make it so opinionated, as they say. Okay, so and yeah, this is what they say. Don't explicitly specify, right? So if shopping done, but what is it? It's actually false, right? So this is not what's going to hit. It's going to be this one, right? That's what's going to. Cool. So here we go. Oh, sorry, just looking out my window there. Hopefully the storm passes by and we'll won't have any craziness. I'm like, is the stream even still running? Are you still there? Okay, so it's perfectly okay to put one if-else statement inside of another. In fact, you can nest these multiple times. For example, we could update our weather forecast application to show a further set of choices depending on what the temperature is. So in this case, right, in here we can let's play around with this a little bit here. It's kind of fun, right, to like do them in here. I'm just gonna get rid of this stuff for now because we don't need that. Let's go to the JavaScript. Let's delete that. Let's paste that. But instead of, oh, I guess, you know what, I could have, well, let's do that. It's a paragraph, right? So let's do, this is a great place to practice and really be able to visually see let's see if that's still true. What's it complaining about now? Reference choice is not defined. Oh, must not have grabbed the top. Oh, okay. Fine. Fine, they didn't even give us that. I didn't even notice that, but that's okay. We know how to fix this, don't we? We're gonna say what? It says it doesn't have a choice, so let's give it a choice. Let choice equal, right? And we'll just, in this case, we'll just give it the value, right? Because this is a way for you to just test, right? In fact, this is typically how you do if temperature. Okay, so we also need a temperature. Hi, temperature equal to, and now they're going off a number, so less than 86 or greater than or equal to 86. So it was like 94 degrees here today, so Celsius. So let's because I'm assuming Hezi, you're on you use sorry, Fahrenheit is what I was saying. You use Celsius, right? In New Zealand, is that correct? I lived in England for 3 years, and they were on. Yeah, they used Celsius, which was interesting to get used to, knowing like that 30-something degrees Celsius was like really hot. It sounded weird. We're so used to hearing like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and people. 100? Oh my god, what is that? Death? Nah, it's like whatever, 30 something or whatever it is in. I keep seeing that lightning pop out there. It's crazy. Okay, so now we're defining, we'll go ahead and this is just us giving it test cases really, right? So we're defining the, let's clear that now. So what's it complaining about now? Para is not defined. Oh, right. We're losing all of our. This is okay though, right? Because I think this is cool. Because this is giving us the errors of like what's missing, and we know how to do this now. We know how to define this. So para is what it's looking for. We knew that, right? And that would be equal to what? Document. We saw this, right? Query selector. All right, and we're gonna ooh, 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 ooh. Right, so there we got our paragraph. Yep. See, even you leave the semicolons off. You can leave all the semicolons off like this. It still runs. That's another little syntax shorthand you don't have to do, but you will see a lot of people still continue to keep them. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, a lot of people like to, they feel like it just completes their code. I'm either way. I don't know. I've done both. And KMS, kilometers a second, is that? Yeah, we're the only country that uses um, um, yeah, we're the only ones that use like not metric, don't use a 24-hour clock. You know, we have to be so unique, which just causes problems between All right, cool. So we fixed this, even though all we did was grab, and what we're trying to look at is how you can nest if statements, right? So, but we were missing some part of the code, right? But I thought that was great because it actually let us troubleshoot a little bit, right? Oh, we needed a choice, right? Because it's expecting something from a select, but we took the select away. So, you know, that was my own fault, but that's okay. This is a way that you can actually do this without the select element being there, right? You just want to test to see if this code works. So you can just do this and define a variable and give it a value that it's expecting right here. And so now it does that, right? It sees that choice is equal to Sunny. Then what it does is it goes in and creates a new if statement, right? The first thing it does. So the first thing that happens is it tests this, right? It says that's true. So then it says, okay, also go and say if this temperature value is less than 86, which in this case it's not, right? So this is false. So it's not going to do this, right? So then it's going to drop to the else if. I was like, what is that? Remind me later. It'll drop to the else if, and it's going to test and say if temperature though is greater than or equal to 86, then change the text content. And it's also doing, and here we're gonna fix this too. I'm gonna show you a different one here. So right now they're doing string concatenation, right? Utilizing the escape method to you know, break out of the string to be able to define the variable in the string, and then it basically you do the plus and then create the quote again, and then that brings it back into a normal string, right? And then the end quote, and then that completes that. But we've learned, I believe I've said it a couple times, right? That you can use the new convention of backticks to do string templating, right? So now you can get rid of this. You don't need the plus. You don't need the quote, right? So that makes that a little bit cleaner. And now you use this ES6 special, you know, syntax to put this in line. So I'm just going to copy this real quick here. And actually, first of all, just notice that, actually I should have did that the other way around, but that's okay. That this, you know, is still, where is it missing a curly brace? Where's it getting that? Or, oh, that's probably old. Yeah. Okay. So then on this one, we can do the same thing, right? And do paste that there, but then we got to change this to a backtick, and this one to a backtick. Move that, clear that, right? Rebuilds, and now you can still see that this is still running. And if we were to go 84 degrees, here, let it rebuild, right? And now you see it's 84 degrees outside, nice and sunny. Let's go to the beach, right? And so, but instead of using and having to escape out of the string and do all that, we're going to use the template, right? It's pretty cool. Yes, right? Neat. So this makes it really nice to start adding this in, because then now literally anywhere in here, like you want to define, show other variables, you can just put it anywhere. So, you know, at the end here, you just pop it in, you know, it's going to show up at the end there, you know. And if you had other variables, well, here, look, watch, we could, you could technically go like this. Oh man, you hear that? We may lose power, so apologies. But look, see? You can just output sunny. So it just makes it easy to slap variables right in your strings. Right, those backticks are just such a savior. And again, you can. The cool thing is you could do stuff in here too. You know what I mean? Like this. I mean, you could do calculations if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but I mean, in this case for the temperature, I'm just showing, like, you could, you could do that, and then look, see, now you're getting mathematical operations going on, right? So you could do stuff in here, that's cool too, So I just think that this right here is super powerful. Even though it's kind of a real simple thing, it really added a lot of functionality to JavaScript. It was a much welcomed addition. So very cool. Yeah, right. That is an awesome new addition. It's been around, luckily, since the ES6 release. So okay, cool. So we got that going. That was how we just showing again how you can nest an if inside of an if to give another test, and return output. So. And they're just explaining here that each if-else statement works completely independent of the other, right? This is not, I mean, now it won't get into this one, right? If this does not happen. So, but very cool, very cool. Okay, yeah, you know what? We haven't really talked, I don't think, about any of these, so this is good. This is good. Let's get into the logical operators. I would like to go and get another cup of coffee. Can you give me 2 minutes? Can you give me 2 minutes? Let's see. I'm just gonna leave that up. I'll be right back, literally like 1 minute, okay? Well, 1 minute, maybe that's pushing it. Give me 3. As I leave, the power goes out right now. Okay, so hang on. I'll be right back, I promise. Okie dokie. Are we working? So weird, like the headphones don't connect back. Why? Why are you being a turkey? Disconnected? Lies. Lies. I don't hear music. Unless the music just literally did stop. Possible. Oh. Why did that stop working? Why did that stop? Oh, maybe you gotta do the whole... There it is. I got it. Thank you for waiting. I appreciate your standby. Standing by to standby. All right, let's go back over to making decisions. Logical operators and or and not. Thanks, Hezzy. Appreciate it. He said, me too. I'll get one too. Okay, nice. Like, all right, perfect. I like this. Got like a one-on-one going on. Okay, so cool. Did you get yours already? I don't. I didn't have any issues with it in Twitch so far. I'm saying that lightly. I went and checked the video there, and it appears to be fine. I listened all the way through. I guess that's weird. Did I close it? That's funny. Could have sworn I still had. That was a fun one. Where am I going here? Okay. Yeah, I thought I had Twitch still open, but yeah, yeah, I went and listened through the video, and it sounds like everything's fine. It seems like nothing's muted, and I found out that you can download. I didn't realize that you can download the video from the channel collection there. I thought I was recording I started recording from Streamlabs, and then uploading it from my. But that eats up a lot of resource on my computer when I'm streaming to stream and record at the same time in OBS. So when I just saw that, I was like, oh sweet, I don't have to do record at the same time either. I can just download the video directly from Twitch and then upload it to YouTube. I was like, sweet. And I'm not even sure if you can or not, but they also give you like a URL link directly to the video for so I'm kind of curious if I don't know. I haven't really done a lot of stuff with YouTube ever, other than just listen to stuff and watch stuff on it. So from the other side of things, I don't know if when you do an upload, if there's a way, can you just plug? Oh no, I guess not. Okay, I was gonna see if there was a way for you to just use the URL and it would just pull it from there, but it doesn't look like it will. So. I guess it's not going to work, but that's cool. Still, I don't have to worry about eating up my resources on my computer while we're going through this, because that's always a possibility that could. Oh man, that lightning is feels like it just touched the front lawn. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we keep power. Okay, so. It is hurricane season here in the east coast of South Carolina. From May to friggin' November or something. Hate it. We're moving though. We're moving. So hopefully be back there soon enough. I saw and heard that, man. Oh, did you really? Is it flashing like my face is lighting up? Uh-oh. Is Jerry still alive? We've been pretty good. We've gone through a couple hurricanes here and stuff, and we've managed to do pretty well with really no damage. Knock on wood, as they say, right? Cool. Okay. So if we wanted to test multiple conditions, right, without writing a nested if-else statement, we can use logical operators that can help you, right? So this was kind of like the long way, I guess, if you want to say, to add in that extra test into the into what you're looking to before you get an output. So basically, this is you're double to if this is this, if this is this. You're until you get into it. Well, what if you could just do it all in here, right? Is what they're basically going to show us right now. So when used in conditions, the first two do the following, right? A double AND is exactly what that sounds like. And, right? That's, you hear that thunder? Oh my gosh. Allows you to chain together two or more expressions so that all of them have to individually evaluate to true for the whole expression to return true. So basically, you know, oh, well, let me just keep going, sorry. Then you have the OR operator, which is two pipes, as they call this character. It's actually just, that's one, and there's another one. If you've never used the pipe character, it's right above your enter key. So, which is the OR operator, right? So allows you, or conditional, like, oh no, there's like a test operator, right? What do they call them? Conditions without logical operators. There you go. I knew it was operator. So allows you to chain together two or more expressions so that one or more of them have to individually evaluate to true for the whole expression to return true. So let's get some examples, right? So here, which again, look, we can do this. This is what's good about having that other example up right here, because now we can actually come in here and I can just replace this, keep all of our variables defined, right? So that, because it's still testing for the same stuff, right? And so now what this is doing, same thing as before, right? But now what it's testing is all in this one parentheses here, in this one test condition. It's going to say if the choice is equal to sunny and the temperature is less than 86, meaning this is true and this is true, then do this, right? Else, if the choice is equal to sunny and the temperature is greater than or equal to 86, do this. So again, both these have to be true, right? In order for this to evaluate correctly and then output this, right? So this is just, and this is, you know, you'll see this very commonly, and you can actually continue this. You could say, and, or whatever, right, keys would be nice, and, you know, choice, you know, not that you'd probably do this test, but equal to null or something, like, or undefined or whatever, right? So you can continue to string these tests down, down the line there too. You typically don't see them really go that far. You usually just see you doing comparisons between two. That's more of the, you know, more commonly what you'll see. Just, I think, just more for, you know, kind of cleanliness of the code, and there might be some performance or something. I don't know, maybe some optimization issues with that or something. But you can do it. You can continue to run the tests. But it's just, it's basically the same exact thing we did before, right? Except in this case, we are just using the logical operators to give us our test instead of doing a nested if statement. So just another convention on how to work. That's typically what you'll see in all these. There's multiple ways to do the same thing. Just find the way you like to do it best. Or, you know, if you really want to be all whatever, go find out, like, what, you know, go look up what's the best practice for writing if logical operators. And they'll be guaranteed, probably even in MDN here, you know, in fact, they may even say it, I don't know, that, you know, of what is the best way to go, you know. But the important thing, again, right, is to know there's multiple ways to do the same thing. So that's a very important thing, because you will see it different ways, and you'll go, if you don't know that it can do it in multiple ways, you may get a little confused and say, well, I don't know, that doesn't look right. How do you do, how come it's doing, you know, if you only knew about logical conditionals like this and never learned that you could nest if statements, and then you saw one and they didn't do it this way, you might go, well, I mean, I see it and it makes, I guess, sense, but I've never seen an if inside of an if before. It seems to be working, but I guess you can do it that way. You know, it's just a lot of that guessing and stuff gets, when you can come in, once you learn the basics of these things like that, you'll go, okay, I know you can do it in different ways, and just know that for everything in JavaScript. Like there's multiple ways to write an array. There's multiple ways to define an object. There's, you know, it's just, so there's just know that there's always options. Okay, so here is this is another, so this is a quick they're doing a quick example of an OR operator, right? This one here is basically just saying that if ice cream van outside, which is this test, right? You see how there's no equal to right here? What did they say again? That this is defaults to if you're not doing the test explicitly. That this is true, right? So they're saying if true, like if this returns true, or house status is equal to on fire, right? Do this, else probably should have just stayed. Okay, so they're just giving you the first example of what running an OR logical operator inside the if conditional test, right? And so and again we learn the, so now, oh sorry, I was just going to say we learned the whole, when you see this without an explicit test against is it equal to true, that you know that when you see these that that's what it's doing, right? If this is true or that's equal to on fire, then do that. So the last type of logical operator is the not, expressed by the exclamation point or the bang, some people say, operator. Can be used to negate an expression. So let's combine it with our OR in the above example. So now they're saying if, now that's interesting that they, oh, they're, okay, so what it's gonna, yeah. So this is, let's do this actually. Let's play with this. Well, first, okay, fine. Let's do this. Sorry, I kind of cheated there a little bit. Let's do it. Like, I mean, it's kind of pointless not to play around with these. All right, so we'll have to do some new defining here, right? Because this does not exist. That's okay, because we know how to make that happen, right? Let that equal. So I'm just going to say true, right? This is, we're going to say that the ice cream, that's not lay. You don't want to lay the ice cream. You want to let the ice cream and be outside. And we also want to let house status equal to on fire. So we're just making everything true right now, right? So, right, so here we go, right? What came out here is you should leave the house quickly because ice cream van outside is true. House status, it's on fire, so working out. Now, if I change this, right, and say, why did that not fire off? Did that not spin a new thing, or did I missing it? Clear that. That should have. This should be. Oh, right. Sorry. My apologies. So it's testing this first, right? So because this is true, and we're using the OR logical operator here, right? It doesn't matter, right? So as soon as it finds the first thing that's true, it's going to go ahead and just do this because it's saying or this. It doesn't need both of them to be true. It's saying if this is true or this is true, then do this. So right now, this is true, but this is not. This is false, right? And we can do that too by, this again is a nice way to, gosh darn it. So this is a good way to be able to house status this, right? Okay, so you can see that our house status variable is on fires, right? So that is false, correct? But this is true. So this is going to happen. But what you could do is to test this like completely, you can go ahead and change this to false. Keep the other one the same way too, right? So now first thing it says, if ice cream ran outside, it's looking for this to be true, right? But it's not, it's false, right? So that is saying, okay, we're skipping that. And then it says, or this one equal to on fire, which that's false now too, because it's not, it's on fires, right? So it skips this and then drops and says, nope, none of these conditions were met. So let's go ahead and just fall into our default else and give you that value back, right? But if we did say now this and changed house status to a true, now we're getting, you should leave the house quickly, right? Because even though this one is false, so if, and it's saying test this, is it true? No, it's false. Okay, or what is this? Oh, no, that is true. Okay, then let's do that. If we had used, of course, again, like we learned earlier, right? If we use the and, both of those have to actually work, and that's not gonna work out, right? So it's always gonna fall into the probably should just stay then, because both of those have to be a true. They have to have a value of true, and they don't. So it could either true, or one can be true, one can be false. Because it's just saying or. But what you want to do is usually test for, you know, well, no, again, it's just, that's what it's doing. It's just looking at this one and it's looking at this one. Whichever one it meets first that's true, it's going to just dump into here because it just needs to meet one of these conditions. One or the other has to be true, where in the end, they both have to be true, right? So now it gets a little funkadelic here, because now what they're going to introduce is the not operator. And again, this says that the not is expressed by the exclamation or the bang, as some people will say, or so then it can be used to negate an expression. So let's do this too. I need to change this one. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, make sure they're both true. And then I don't need that anymore. All right. Okay, so we got our, you should leave the house quickly, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to wrap our, music was sketching out there for a second. So we're going to wrap this in parentheses. I don't know if this does this in here or if that actually, ah, yes, it does. That's so nice. Now, technically, this should still run with no problem. And it did, right? Let me just validate. Quick way to make sure that this is, you can just change like one thing on it, just make sure it builds again, and then it should output. Other than that, it should have. You have to make more than significant changes than that. Force it to like build again. I like to do that sometimes just to like validate that something's still, yeah, okay, so see, it works. But now what we're going to do is put this in front of it and say not. This is saying if not true, basically. If this expression here is not true, then do the other. Does that make sense? It's one of the more confusing ones, I feel like. I'm trying to think if there's a better, let me see if there's an easier way to explain that. So actually it's kind of interesting that they introduced it like this too. Because here, let's just show you. So let me break this down a little bit smaller here, and let's get rid of the let's get rid of this, right? And let's just do that. So, right, do you see what this is doing? Not true, right? It's what that's saying, because we're expecting this to, you know, if this is true, then do this. If not, do that, right? This is saying if not true, so it's saying if it's false, then just jump to the last else, right? And that's just how you do that negate operator like that. And you can see if I take it off, since it is true, then we get this should leave the house quickly. But when you say not true, it realizes and then goes and jumps to the last one, says. Does that make sense? This is basically saying, you know, because it's evaluating this whole thing and saying if this whole thing is not true, like, you know what I mean? Not a true statement, then go right to that. So yeah, it's just, you'll see that quite a bit too. So just something very much to be aware of. So in the snippet, if the or statement returns true, the not operator will negate it so that the overall expression returns false. And that's basically what we're saying, right? Not true. That's how I remember it. I always say not true. That's how I remember it for whatever reason. That's how it sticks in my head, because I always see it and I'm like, what is that? I mean, I know what it is, but I always try to I have to say it like that for me to, like, for it to run in my mind the right way. So that's just the way it goes. What kind of coffee you drinking there, Hezzy? Mine's just plain old, like, Folgers breakfast blend or something like that, I think. Some caramel macchiato creamer. Fancy. But it's just a regular coffee pot, not a Keurig or any of those fancy machines, you know? Old school. Now I gotta go old school, gotta get the press, right? Do the old press style. What's up? Alright, cool. You can combine as many. We talked about this earlier too, right? We can do as many logical statements together as you want. So here they're doing all black coffee. You're doing it the right way. That's the way you're supposed to do it. It's the healthy way. I add the poison into mine, so I'm not doing myself any favors. But yeah, so this, you can do this whole thing where it's, you know, first it's doing all these, right? And so it's saying if, you know, if this, so it looks at this, right? And let's say that is evaluates the true, and then this evaluates the true, then it'll run code, because it says if this is true and all this is true, then do the code, right? And by adding these parentheses around the conditional, it allows you to do a more complex evaluation of your, you know, your conditions here, and also compare them against another complex evaluation, right, of conditions on this side here. And you could also do that as an or an, right? So those are just showing a little bit more of a complex implementation of that. So, you know, you can get pretty in the weeds with it, you know. Again, you don't want to overly complicate it. This isn't too bad right here. This is pretty, you know, not nothing crazy. You probably wouldn't want to go too much more than this. You might want to do, this is where you may decide and go, okay, I'm going to do this here, but then I'll go ahead and drop another nested if here to do another test to see, you know. There's multiple ways to do it. It kind of just try to do it the best way that gives you, you know, the cleanest code as well. You know? And doesn't make it super confusing, because I've seen some, you can do a lot of really intricate things if you want to with code. We'll do, and I don't know if they, let's see if they do. We are here, but let's see. Ternary. Okay, they do talk about it. So I'm not gonna get into it real quick, but let me just. Oh, that's on this page. Oh, cool, 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 cool. But I open it in a tab so you can see it. So you can get into. So we just been running a bunch of if statements, right? Well, you can do this thing using. You can do the same type of thing for an if statement using what's called a ternary operator. A funny word, right? Ternary. Some people say ternary. That's the way I say it. Ternary operator. Um, so it's a small little bit of syntax to do like quick, evaluations. So I won't get to because they do talk about it on the page, but basically it's a shorthanded syntax, right? You have your condition in here, which in this case is saying, is birthday. So it's saying, is this true? If it is, this is the operator. This is where syntactical magic is like, you're going to probably look this up because you're like, oh, I don't remember how to write a ternary operator, but I know I just need to run this little simple thing, right? So it uses this, JavaScript's using this syntactical character here to, it's kind of like an oxymoron, to run this, or this is like, how do I say that? I can't speak properly. This is the syntax to be able to know that after you check this condition, if this is true, you type the question mark and then it runs this code. Else, you use this colon to run a different set of code. So this is basically like if it's this, right, then run that, and then this is like else, run that. So we'll get to that, but I just wanted to show you that there's other ways to do all this stuff. So just again, knowing that it has that type of flexibility is really, that's what I think makes a better, again, like a better developer and stuff like that. Somebody who memorizes a bunch of stuff, not saying that's not impressive if people can do it and they understand all this stuff too, but to me it's more about understanding the capabilities and all that, and then syntax is secondhand to me. I'm like, look it up. Don't waste your time getting all hung up on memorizing code syntax. Again, the more you type it, you will remember it anyway, so it's good to go, but people stress themselves so much on it. They get all hung up on, how do I remember? I don't remember how to do that. And they start going, I'm such a shitty developer. Man, do you know what a switch statement is? Okay, then don't worry about if you don't remember how to write it. Just know it exists and what it does, right? All the goodness. Yeah, it's shorthand. Exactly, Hezzy. That's exactly what it is. It's just a quick way, especially for real simple little, hey, is this true? Do this, otherwise do that. And you know what, you'll see that'll make those more complex is, and I'm not going to like get into the complexity of it, but what you could do, right, is you say you can say, well, let me just do this one time. But I'm not gonna like finish the whole thing. I'm kind of like gonna pseudocode this. So how status, we'll do. So what I was gonna, oh, this is gonna fire an error. But just look at the don't look at the console. But instead of this just being like, you could have this be like call function one, whatever. I'm just gonna say that, else call function 2, right? So it doesn't have to be a this doesn't have to be a just simple like thing that you return here. It doesn't have to just be a string or something like that. You can say if this house status is on fire, which, right, because it's saying true. In this case, whatever, we'd have to do some stuff. But anyway, we're good here. So let's say it's true, right? Then we call this function here. So this is I actually left that off, but because it would look like that. But This could be something complex like this: return an object, return a function, return an array, return a string, return a number, return a calculation, or do something else. This could be, if it does one thing and it's true, call this function, else just return a string that says, sorry, you didn't do the right thing, or something, so you can interchange and use, you can kind of make this simple shorthanded thing more complex by defining like what these things here that you're returning. So just wanted to kind of just touch on that just a little bit to let you know that even though it's shorthand doesn't mean that it has to be just simple, because I was about to say it's a way to do simple evaluations, and it is like you typically just are testing something quick to say, is this true or false, do this or that. But you can have it go out and then do some complex whatever, return back of that, and then you're, and you move on. So it's not necessarily just to say, oh, just tell me if this is true, say, hey, this is true, otherwise say, no, this isn't true. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I rambled on that one a little too long. Okay, so where were we at? Okay, so I think we finished up. Yeah, we talked about the and how you can do more complex conditional checks, right? A common mistake when using the logical or operator in conditional statements is to try to state the variable whose value you are checking once and then give a list of values it could be to return true, separated by the or operator. For example, if x is equal to 5 or 7. Yeah, I've done I have done this plenty of times before, because it just kind of thinks like, it just sounds right when you say it, right? X is equal to 5 or it's equal to 7 or it's equal to 10 or it's equal to 20. I almost kind of wish they would allow this in a lot of ways, because I feel like that'd be a kind of a cool shorthand, but it's not. You have to define each one and say, if x is equal to 5 or x is equal to 7 or x is equal to 10, and so on and so forth. You get what I'm saying, right? But wouldn't it be much cleaner if you could just do this, x equal to 5 or 7 or 10 or 20, and it just knows that you're saying if any of these are true as an equal of a value of x, that it runs this code. It seems like that would make total sense. But maybe that's something they'll put in the roadmap for the specification ECMAScript, right? You can actually submit it if you really wanted to. And maybe it already has been. You can go look at the roadmap and see if they're going to do that. But you could because it's all, open source and all that kind of stuff, whatever, you can submit requests into the, into ECMAScript and tell them like, this is something that you would like to see happen in the code now, or in the specification for JavaScript. Now, if, obviously it goes through a whole gamut of, evaluation and all that, and voting and whatever, and decide whether it should get implemented into the code or into the language itself. They may have reasons why they don't like that. So, but doesn't mean you can't try. Again, it probably has already been submitted. It wouldn't surprise me. All right, another way, like if-else statements. So if-else statements do the job of enabling conditional code well, but they are not without their downsides, right? They're mainly good for cases where you've got a couple of choices and each one requires a reasonable amount of code to be run, and or the conditions are complex. For example, multiple logical operators. For cases where you just want to set a variable to a certain choice of value or print out a particular statement depending on a condition, the syntax can be a bit cumbersome, especially if you've got a large number of choices. It's true. So in such a case, right, you use what's called switch statements. They're your friend, they're saying. They take a single expression value as an input and then look through a number of choices until they find one that matches that value, executing the corresponding code that goes along with it. Here's some pseudocode to give you an idea, right? So This is the proper syntax. You use a switch. That's how you start the expression or statement. Sorry, and then you have parentheses, and then this is typically what you're looking at is a value here, or a lot of times this is something that's defined maybe in a variable already, and that you're evaluating it to see if it's true. Or sorry, I didn't mean to say true. Sorry. You're looking for a specific value, not true or false. You're looking for yeah. I mean, if you're doing true and false stuff, stick with ifs. If you're looking for specific string values and stuff like that, and you want it to run different choices based on that, this is like you'd want to do a switch statement. So, so here, this is looking for, let's say, like the weather thing, right? It's looking for sunny, or whatever. Let's say that that list of available values in that select statement or select element that we had earlier had like 100 choices in it, right? You might want to do something like this to check it or something. So the next thing that, let's see, do they go into a little, okay, here we go. Let's do a little switch example. Oh, they are, Jesus, it's almost like I wrote it myself. So they're back to the same thing before, right? Let's go ahead and play with this one again too. So we'll go back to our HTML. Okay, paste that in there. JavaScript. Word it. All right, and then now it's doing the same thing as before, but instead of an if statement, because we're evaluating against matching against a bunch of string values. Let's see here. Okay, so same thing as before, right? Variable for select, variable for paragraph. We're adding an event listener of the change event, right? And we're doing the same thing. We're calling the set weather function. Again, same thing. Inside the function, we are defining the choice variable, which is getting the value from the select box here, or select element here. Now what it's doing is here, right? It's looking at the value of choice. We already saw earlier that the values are strings of basically what's in here, right? Except it's all just lowercase. So what it's doing is every time you run this, right, it's going to hit choice. So the switch statement goes and says, if the case is sunny, then do this. If the case is rainy, then do this. If it's snowing, do this. If it's overcast, do this. And then at the end, it has a default. And it's kind of just like the if. It's very similar in a lot of ways, in the kind of the way you think about it. There's some differences, though, and we'll talk about it in a second. But this is the syntax, right? You write switch, and then you give it the condition that you're looking at. In this case, we're just seeing what the value is. So this is saying if the case, in this case, if the case is that this is equal to sunny, then do that. Now, the thing with the switch statement, unlike the if else statement, I'm pretty sure runs all the way through. Let me see if that's how they explain it. I'm kind of curious. Pattern. Yeah, so yeah, they don't say it, but so the if statement runs all this, is, if I'm not mistaken, I could look that up, but let me from what I remember, and that's like the worst teacher answer ever. But the if else statements run from top to bottom all the way through. It reads the whole thing and it tests H1, and then it returns whichever condition is working. Where this, as soon as it finds the correct thing it's looking for, it breaks out of it, and it returns this. So you can even see, so it's saying if the case is sunny, do this and then break. it kind of explicitly telling you, right? Break out of it. Don't do anything further. We found what we're looking for. We don't need to do any of this. Don't even look at this stuff. Where in the if else, it still looks at everything and runs through that code regardless. So that's like a little bit of the difference between the switch and that. And again, this is looking for typically multiple how do they say it? When you have a lot of different like values that you're looking to try to evaluate on. A switch statement is very helpful. Like you want to see if it's a certain string, or you want to see if it's a specific number, something like that, or you know, other. How? Right. So again, another way to make decisions, right? That's just what you want to think about, right? It's another way to make some decisions. If something's not doing, or something's that, yeah, cases, right? You're making cases. I'm making a case for a case for snow. Love it. Now, at the end, you can do a default like this. It runs a little different, right? Instead of the case, right, like this, you don't do anything. You just say default colon and give it whatever you want to do. Okay, whatever the default thing is that you want to happen, that's what you do. In the case of this, we're doing the same thing like we did before and just blanking out the string, right? But if you know exactly what you're looking for, and you know that that one of these will always be hit inside of here, you're never expecting an undefined or anything like that, you don't even have to have a default. You can completely remove it, and this code will still run fine. So there's your snowing. So even at that, this shouldn't break, right? It didn't do anything. It just didn't do anything different, right? So it didn't error out because there's no default, but that's okay in a switch statement, right? So we're not getting any errors here, but when it does get the correct value for one of its cases, it does what it's supposed to do, right? Now, if we were to go ahead and put that back in there, right? And now we say, let's switch this to rainy, right? We get the paragraph change, but now we go back to choice, right? That's an empty string. We know that. We looked it out. We consoled it out earlier. And so then we take the paragraph, text content, and we blank it, right? It's good to have defaults, but you do not have to. And especially when you know exactly what your code is expecting to come back. So switch statements. Word up. What is up? All right, we're on to the last checker. Okay, let's see. What was the piece that I was going to read that I wanted to see? Oh, that's it. You don't have to include the default section. You can safely omit it if there is no chance that the expression could end up equaling an unknown value. So that's what they're saying. As long as you know that a value specifically is going to come back from something, then you know what to do. So if there's a chance of this, though, however, you need to include it to handle unknown cases. Never bad to have defaults. But okay, so we have our switch and our last one, I believe, right? All right, so in the final bit of syntax, I want to introduce you before we get to play with some examples. We've been playing with examples the whole time. You can't keep up with us. The ternary or conditional operator is a small bit of syntax that tests the condition and returns one value expression if it is true and another if it's false. This can be useful in some situations and can take up a lot less code than an if-else block if you simply have two choices that are chosen between a true-false condition. All right, so here's a simple example. We kind of did this already, but, well, actually, here's this one, right? Let's do this one. Let's do their example. Booyah. Let's go here. We're going to take this, change out the HTML here, right? And let's add some JavaScript. If you could just copy and paste all. Now, honestly, you will copy and paste a lot of code that's not yours. It's just one of the things you do because, inevitably you'll start writing stuff, you'll get into it, and you go, oh, how do I do this? Up, boom, boom, boom. Go look at Google, search up what you're looking for. Stack Overflow article comes back. Here's how you do this. They'll give you a function snippet of code, and you copy and paste it into yours, and you go, ooh, there you go. Look, that works. And there you go. So, you do. That's why I also feel that being this phenomenal, like, syntactical, magical memorizer of stuff and writing it out is really not where your best power or where your most valued skill is. I feel like what's important is that, like, you can do that. Go out to Google, say, hey, this is what I need to be able to do. You go research through some articles, forums, Stack Overflow, posts, whatever, right? You find what you think that looks correct, what you're trying to do, and then you grab that code and then you implement it into the code you've already been working with, which could be a mix of code you've written yourself with other maybe code you've copied from other, posts that are out there. And now being able to take that and integrate it into yours and know how to do it and understand what it's doing, that is where the power, I think, of a developer really comes in. A person that can figure out how to implement functionality into their applications. Again, look up the syntax. No biggie, no big. Go do that. That's how you figure out when you're like, I don't freaking remember how to do this array, whatever. Being able to go and grab somebody else's code, understand what that's doing and how you can integrate that into your code base and get it working together, that is where the real power of a developer, I think, comes from, and where they really can provide, and that's where value is. So, again, that's why I think, like, places that are hiring for developers that do these silly developer like tests and ask you these questions about, it's bullshit. Great, you can freaking remember a bunch of syntax and shit like that. Now, I have seen other, interview quiz or whatever you want to code tests or whatever, where it was more on kind of like understanding, like what I was saying, like, do you understand what this is? Do you know how that works? Like, we don't really care if you can write out, like they would do like this, where they'd say, can you just kind of pseudocode us how you would implement that? Because they just want to see how you think and if you know what you might use for something. You know what I mean? How would I get these elements from this object onto the page? And you go, well, I'd probably use a JavaScript map function, which would iterate over the object, or the array. Array, something like that. And so that's where I feel like, because again, if you just want to hire a bunch of people that memorize syntax, I don't think you're necessarily getting the best developer in the world. You're probably just getting somebody who really just try to study to pass your test, but they don't really think. They can't think. They don't know how to actually look at something and figure out how to implement it. So be able to combine yours and others' code and make it work. Right? That is really a huge part of what developers do all day long. It just is. It's rare that I have really, I've worked, and that was probably one of the best developers I ever worked with. He literally was just really great at, like, sitting down for 8 straight hours and writing a full-blown application. But even him, he'd go out, how do you do that? Let me steal this piece of code, let me steal that piece of code. We say steal, it's not stealing. Snag this piece of code, snag that piece of code. Yeah, and that's how you get it done, right? It's not all you sitting there going, I'm writing every single little bit and piece. Go look at all the other streamers, right? What do they do? If they're actually building real apps and stuff like that they're going out there, they're looking up this, they're looking, how do you do this? How do I make this call? How do I do that? I mean, it wouldn't be like, all these guides and tutorials and API documentations and stuff out there if they didn't want you to go figure out and copy their stuff on how to implement, right? go to the Twitch developer API, and they show you how to build your own chat bots, right? You're using all their code, you know, and then you tweak a little here and there to add whatever you're trying to do, maybe, because you're like, oh, well, I wanted to do when somebody says, you know, bang color red in my chat, I wanted to change the IDE in my VS Code to a different, to that color theme. Like Clarkio has, he's a well-known live coder, and yeah. So, you know, those are, to me, that's where I feel like that's where you get a good developer. Someone that really understands how to implement things. Not so much about how much they can remember about specifics, like you know, syntax and stuff. Cool. All right, so where are we at here? We are doing the ternary operator. And so we have we have a select. We have, this is actually taking the whole HTML. This is grabbing the entire HTML document here, right? And so what it's doing right now, this is kind of like what we were talking about, right? Select a theme. I didn't even read this until I started talking about. What this is also doing here is all right, that's fun. They're actually, okay. So they're applying, so with JavaScript too, if you weren't aware, you can do styling. You can leverage JavaScript to make style changes in your CSS, right? And through the browser API, you have access to all of the, you know, CSS and styling functionality, right? So here they're saying, hey, document, I'm talking to you. In the document, here, I'll even show you like this. I think this will be the best way to do this. Might get a little funky. I'm like, can I get the... Oh, it's down. I was like, that's why it's down there. Okay, so so here, right? Because I just want you to see, this is part of the whole, this is part of the browser API, right? So document, which is our HTML document, right? It has a body tag in it, right? Because every HTML document, one of its requirement is, right, you have to have a body tag, right? I'm foreseeing the future. Right? That'd be cool. Or maybe not, because you may not, the future you see, you may not like. Ooh, I need to be optimistic, right? Stay positive. Okay, so document, right? Then it's going in, it's touching the body tag right there, right? You can see it outputting it right there, right? And then you have access into the style object, right? So you can go into style like this, right? And one of an available option for style is padding, right? So you can say style padding, and then the way you define it is just say equal, right? And you give it a value. So just wanted to show you it like in the body or in the console here, so you can see what this is actually doing. Because if you watch here, I'm going to close their console there. Can I close this? Okay, cool. All right, so if I move that down, so here, I should be able to now, if I change this, watch, we'll see if we get a more of a dramatic, I'm going to jump it up big time. All right, you see how much that padded the body tag of the HTML document? Jumped it from 10 to 60. So that's applying 60 pixels of padding, which is the inside of the body container, right? Margins push everything away from it, right? Padding gives padding to the content inside, correct? So it gave it this here. So that's where this JavaScript can get fun, right? Because you can start messing with the way that things look. So we'll put it back to what do they have, 20 or 10? They had 10, I think. That works. 10 works. All right. So in this case, we have we've defined a function called update that takes two parameters. One is a background color and one's a text color. And then we are delving into changing the style of the HTML of this document. And we're doing the same thing, kind of like we did up here, right? We're using the web browser's APIs to go ahead and mess with CSS. So we're saying, let's take the HTML document, apply a style, and use the background color property. And we're gonna equal that to whatever the passed in color is to this here. So this is gonna change every time this update function call. Whatever this value is here that's selected and passed into here will be the value here, and then will be set to the background color of the HTML document. It also is going to take a text color, which will then change the text color of the HTML document as well. And it's always funny. I always think color is an interesting, I think they'd call it text color or something, but they just call it color. It used to always kind of confuse, I eventually just get used to it, but it used to always confuse me. I used to be like, that's so funny. Color could mean so many things. Why is it? That's the way they defined it. So what we have here is, right, we're doing now you saw the other way that we defined an add event listener, right, to the element, but this is another way, right? Hezi, we were saying earlier, there's multiple ways to do so many things in JavaScript. Look, here's another one. So instead of saying document query selector, or no, sorry, geez Louise, saying select dot add event listener parentheses, and then passing change as a string for the attached event to be listened, and then calling a function, right? What we're doing here is we're using the built-in onChange event that exists on select, right? The JavaScript built-in function like that. So it's like a shorthand, kind of like you said earlier. So they're doing select onChange and then calling an anonymous function because it has no name, right? Just a plain old anonymous function, doesn't have a name assigned to it. And so it fires it off every time that this thing changes, right? This doesn't need a name, it doesn't need to be. It's just, you just want to listen to what the heck this is going to do, right? So when it does that, when we make this change, right, it's going to fire this off and it's going to say, it's going to run this condition and say, if the value of the select is equal to black, then, so this is saying if this is true, then you use this special character, the question mark, to return this function, right? Or to call this function, right? Else, if this is not true, it's false, then call the function and pass it different parameters, right? So that is a short way to do an if-else statement without having as much syntax. And for these little fun things here, and this is exactly what I said earlier, right? You don't have to just return a string or whatever. You could do a function, right? So in this case, it's chained. This would be like again, just like dark mode, right? And that's, I think, kind of what they're doing. So let's test it out. We go black, bam, right? Beautiful, quick, simple. It's just a nice, quick way instead of having to write this all out. If select value with that, with the bracketing and all that, and then this would be like 6 lines, right, or something, if you actually broke it down. So yeah, so it's just a cool way. It's a cool way to see, or how to do a quick conditional check on something called a ternary operator. This is the part I always forget. This and this. I always forget what these are. So I always have to go and say, I always, yeah, I always have to go and say, oh, look, here, let's do something fun here too. So, this is my website. In H1, okay. So let's do this. I want to do this just for fun. I don't think that works in here. I'm gonna try this. All right. No, I didn't think so. I didn't think the VS Code. So I'm going to copy that real quick, and I'm gonna paste it here, and I'm gonna call this H1, and I'm gonna say H1, right? And so then I'm gonna say in here, oh, sorry. Okay, so this changes the color and the text color, but then I also want to say that if, right, so this is, we're going to we're practicing a little bit of what we just learned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if the H1, no, wait. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to say if because we can test off of this. So we'll say if the background color is equal to, and what is it testing on? Does it say black, right? Okay. Lowercase black. So if it's black, then H1 dot text content equals and then I could just do this. Actually, you could do this. I said black mode. How about dark mode? I don't know, black mode sounds cool too. I like black mode. What's up? How about Black Lives Matter mode, motherfuckers? All right, so if not, then we'd be on, what do they even call it? Light? I don't know. Light, I don't know. All right, so let's see, is this gonna work here? Did that rerun? Light mode, oh, I have them backwards. Oh, you know what, I actually think I need to do this. Else, if, oh, here we go. No, okay, no, we can do it this way too. This would be fun. You can say if the BG color is equal to white, right? Then we can do. Whoa, jumping all over the place, silly. Right, so that now should. Why is that not switching right away? Oh, because it fires off on the. So really, what you'd want to do is this, I think. Because you really wouldn't want anything default in there. You just want it to be blank. And then when someone says dark mode, right? Light mode. Or if the default is white, because it is, right? You could do this. Or, right? So you have light mode, and then that, so that makes sense, right? Since that's the default that it hits on the select. Then if you go black, dark mode, white, light mode, right? Word up. There you go. You can have button of dark mode on a page and implement this. Yep. Yep. And yep. You got it, Hezzy. You know what's up. Exactly. This would be, and this is exactly what they're doing. And so, in this case, they are showing it via, some just simple, hitting or leveraging the browser's API for styling. But typically, probably because, of course, you're not just going to have this piece of text and a background, right? You have a lot more elements on the page to have to negotiate with as far as and this is really where the design side of things get into it, is when you're going from dark to light mode, right? You have to really look at each element and decide how you want it to be styled and everything else. So typically what you would have is you'd have a style sheet for dark mode and a style sheet for light mode, right? And then based on whether or not the person, like the selection of this, instead of it being just change those things, it would say, if which I don't even like the fact that this is, so let's just do this. So, why aren't you changing? Did not save it yet? Oh, 100 unsaved changes. We'll save it. Do it for me. Stop being that way. It hasn't resaved again yet. Let's see if I can get it to kick it. I wonder why sometimes you gotta just like do a bunch of stuff to get it to like really rebuild it. Maybe it does it after a certain amount of updates. Let's see. Why is it not working? Dark, light. Equal to dark. Dark mode. Oh. Still not working. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, duh. See, this is all of us mess up. I don't think that dark and so this would actually still have to be, or actually let's do this. Watch, let's show you this one too. I'm pretty sure you could do this if the value was oh, and this is fun. Now I'm just kind of messing around now, if that's cool, if you don't mind me just playing around a little bit here. Right, so if background color, let's see here. So I am now going to say if the background color is, now what you'd have to do here, and this is where like you necessarily wouldn't maybe do the string, and you would just do, oh, I screwed that up, sorry. Actually you still could, but a lot of times you would just see something like this, plus the BG color, right? Because now this is, and the text color do the same thing. Right, so now what we're doing is passing hexadecimal values for CSS, right? You're used to saying it is quite cool with me. Cool, thanks, Hezzy. Right, this is where like you kind of go and like, ooh, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? Right. So what I'm doing is I'm changing the values to hexadecimal values, which is what you typically see more in CSS, right? For colors, or RGB, or you know, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but this is probably the one you've seen the most so far, right? So I'm passing it without even the hashtag or the hash character or the pound character. I'm actually concatenating it after I get it in here, right? So this is actually now, if you really, this actually technically looks like this, right? So if I do that, right, and then text color, I'm doing the same thing, right? And then I'm saying if background color is equal to, now in this case, it would have to be what happens here. Okay. Why is it not switching? I keep having that problem. Oh, I keep not updating it here. So on the change, we're saying okay, cool. Making sure that's right. So then this is if seg value is equal to and in all honesty, you don't even need, I could show you that too. When all the 6 hexadecimal characters are the same in CSS, you can actually only define the first 3 and it actually knows what you're talking about. So let's see if I'm at this correct here. Booyah! Booyah! Oh, my text is not changing, but that's okay, we'll fix that. Dark mode. Light mode. Nice. The reason that's not happening is because we didn't change this. Right? The background color is 6. Alright, so now, light mode, dark mode. Why did that not switch back? Alright, let's find out why. What am I missing? Okay, the dark mode one works. Right, because it is switching to dark, which is not switching back to light. Make sure that they're consistent now. So since I like doing the shorter, I'm going to do the 3. I'm going to cut these off. Right, just to kind of make it a little cleaner since we're just using black and white. And I'm also going to change these because these are not looking at full value, it's looking at that now. Right, that should still be correct. Light mode. Ah, why is that not working? That should still work. Something's weird going on. This is where sometimes in here, right, this is where I would do something like this and just look at what is this like, I'm like, what does this look like? I just want to evaluate it and just look at it in here. Here's the console. Let's close this console. You can use their simple one. Clear. Alright, so alright, hashtag 000. That's right. Maybe it's not liking. Alright, I'll play. That is true though, I swear. I wonder if it's because it wants. Does it require it to have the don't know if that's true or not. Let's see. No? For some reason it doesn't like the short when you're doing it in here, and maybe I don't know why that is in this. But if you've seen in CSS, I don't know if you've ever, you can just do that. This is completely legal. For some reason in the JavaScript side, when you're trying to apply it, it doesn't seem like it will take that, unless I'm missing something. But let's put this to full blown hexadecimal. values. So it's 6 characters, right? All F's are white, all zeros are black. And then you go crazy with all the other different ones, that all the other colors under the sun. Right, and one more. All right, so now that finish. Let's see if this is working for us. Dark mode, light mode, dark mode, light mode. Yeah, for some reason it wasn't liking that, but I'm telling you, watch. Actually, let's just do. Right? It works. I don't know why on the JavaScript side that maybe the way it's parsing this, it's just a little bit different. I don't know why. That should work. You can see it does. I mean, I can switch it back to this. It's white, right? So the shorthanded way to do the CSS for color or hexadecimal colors, you can do it like that. That's only possible though if all 6 characters are the same. So like if you want to do straight 9s or something, right? It's like a dark gray, right? You can do that. The real value is this. Oh, sorry, one too many. See, it doesn't change, but you can do that. It's still the same. It's just a shorthanded way to do it. Just thought I would input that as well. Cool. So we got that working, right? Nice. We added our own more complexity into it, right? So we're just booyah, bam, changing that. Love it. Is it because the value in the HTML is in complete form? Oh, you know what? You're probably right. I wasn't even looking at the HTML. Yep. You know what? Yep. Right? Because it's not going to be that. Let's follow what Mr. Hezzy's saying here, and let's test the theory, because I'm gonna say I believe you are correct, sir. I believe you are correct. Right? Let's see if this works. If we make them all now. I gotta do it just because it's like, now I just want to be like, I know it's true, I know it works. Let's see. Dark mode. Light mode. Dark mode. It does. I was like, I know it works in JavaScript. There's no reason why it doesn't. Well, it helps if you're evaluating or passing in the right colors. Thank you, Ezzy. On the ball, man. See? Helps. It helps. Hey, I'll tell you what, it's true. Today it was a perfect example. We're all on there doing the. No, that's cool. That's fun. I just want to test. Yeah, that's what the whole fun of it is, right? Testing it out, messing around, see what works, what doesn't work. Can I do it this way? Can I do it that way? You know, how funky can I? Sometimes it's fun to just screw around and just see what it can do, what it can't do. Also think that's one of the best ways to learn, right? Don't even look it up. Just say, can it? I don't know. Let me just see if this works. And sometimes you surprise yourself. You're like, oh shit, like that does work. And you found a new way without even looking it up. I think as you continue to work in the language, you start doing that more and more often because you kind of start to see the patterns in which the language is implemented in, and you start like going, I bet you can do that. And then you go and you try it, and inevitably a lot of times it'll work. And that's just, I think, over time with experience, you start to really be able to pick up on kind of the conventions and the implementation of the language itself. But cool, that was a cool one actually. We just kind of took something that we had and made it a little bit more complex by leveraging our if. Now, though, we could have done what? We could have just done, in this case, because they were talking about ternary operators, right? We could technically, right? Although, yeah, you could. Let's try this. So we know that if, I'm just trying to think this out, right? So we know that, because I want to see if I can turn this into the ternary, right? So we're saying if BG color is equal to 0, right? Permission to leave, please. Of course, dude. Yeah, man. I get it. I'm gonna stop right now. I'm just messing around here. So yeah, I won't really go any further. I just wanted to see, could I do this and then say, oh, not then do that. Get rid of all of this. Is that still gonna work? Nope. Changing the color, but it's not doing the. So I'm saying, if the BG, if this is true, BG color is that, and it's then checks to dark mode. Else, each one talking about light mode. I think I want to do this because this is what it's defaulting to. So I think what I want to do is hey Izzy, thanks so much for dropping by. It was a kind of a, actually we actually did quite a bit of cool stuff, really. We learned a lot about if statements, didn't we? And different, and how to do different types of like I like to say checking, right? Like, or evaluating things. So, or so we learned switch statements, we learned if statements, nested if statements, ternary operator. We learned a little bit about JavaScript and CSS, which was cool. So yeah, we actually did some pretty cool stuff. In my opinion, I don't know. I think that was pretty cool. Why is it not working? Why is that? This is checking on BG color. So the BG color right now is white. So as soon as this comes in and BG color is equal to white, then make that light mode. Else make it. I guess you do need to have, because it needs to check. So yeah, there's not a way to do it that way. So maybe, yeah, I guess this is not a case where you would really do that. You do need to do the evaluation on both to get that to properly execute. Have a great night. Oh, back to what we had, which is still fine. Cool. You'll see this too. Okay. All right. Cool. Cool beans. Time is at 10:30. Perfect. Perfect time, and we're at the bottom of that anyway. So look, we ended with the ternary operator. That was it. This is my website. Yeah, we made our own better one. That was it. Although active learning, a simple calendar. Although I didn't see this working. Or maybe they're just showing I need to write a conditional statement each side on changing a function just below. Okay. Well, maybe we'll do that when we come back on more color choices. Okay. Cool. So maybe when we come back on Thursday, we'll do this real quick to test our knowledge, and then we'll move on to the next area of which next is what? Looping code. Yeah, perfect. Nice. Getting into how we do loops. Perfect. All right, cool. So I'm gonna kind of like leave this here because I don't really use this computer during the day, and yeah, we'll leave it at that. Cool beans. All right. I think that's all I needed to do. Cool. Well, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate everybody who has stopped in and said hey, and I'll look forward to seeing everyone on Thursday at the same time. And have a great evening, rest of your week, morning, day, whatever it is. And as always, right? Oh, let's do this part thing too, right? As always, I say, keep up the code. All right. Peace, y'all. Have a good one.